Hello, this is David Baumblatt from Terebinth Leadership. Welcome to the call. I was just literally doing some last-minute debating on X, as pathetic as that is. So today's topic is going to be about the Iran war. We're going to lose, give it time. But anyway, I'll share some screens on X. But you know what's so pathetic? And I've always said that using racial terms and whatnot, you should not do them. It's unprofessional. But there's a time when we get angry. And during anger, we say things that it is what it is. But when you act like a nigger, you're going to be called a nigger. But this is an American citizen. I should do it. And it's amazing how disrespectful it is to a military veteran when you're just asking to listen. There's military corruption, just report, and they want to get into an argument with me, this and that. And it says, you know, something, go fuck yourself. You know, someone who's never served in the military. And that's why I really am hoping not only is this ground invasion for the Iran war, possibly it's going to take place. Donald Trump could be using this as a bargaining chip, which is, okay, we'll go into it a little bit, but I think a ground invasion sounds great. And even better, I hope the military draft comes, because you are going to see that term, fake patriot. Oh, that's going to come out really quick. Now, you're not a fake patriot if you just tell it like it is, but there's a lot of the MAGA people that are pro-Trump, pro-war. They think this is a good idea. Iran is evil. Well, then back it up. Back it up. Now, if you don't, I mean, part of leadership is backing up your principles. And I've always said this. If people don't support military veterans, and they've made it very clear, I'm not going to argue with you at all. That's what I'm saying. But if you're going to get on here like some of these Negroes and or just some of these stupid white people and say, I support military veterans, how you cannot take your finger and press repost instead of arguing with me, because I still remember when I was on Facebook, I was suspended on Facebook. It's doing very well on Facebook. And I still remember, I believe he was an enlisted soldier. And I still remember this because right thing done. Same thing. I said, hey, can you help me? It's a bit of an ass clown, I feel like, when I have to ask for help. I don't like to be this. Nobody likes to ask for help. I said, hey, can you please help me? And it's just repost. And I still remember that. Capital letters, one word, D-O-N, done. And he pressed repost, which I would easily do the same thing. I mean, it's not money, press repost. And the amount of arguing back and forth and this and that. And I think to myself, I was, or I guess I still am, a military veteran, and I would have fought and died for these shit bag Americans. Now, I've been very clear about China. We'll get into the episode. You could tell I'm a little pissed off dealing with these piece of shit Americans. What have I said about China? I've said very clear. The Chinese people and the Chinese government, I've said I don't see that much difference in them. Now, you take it for what it is, good or bad, but I'm not one of these cuck, dumb, ignorant American government people that say Chinese government evil, Chinese people good. Never said that. Chinese people and the Chinese government, 80, 90%, there's no difference, people. And again, I know China more than anyone in the United States government. There's no difference. You use whatever adjective you want to describe China, but I'm telling you that adjective should be very similar for government and the people. It's not very different. Now, what do I think about the American people? Remember, I keep saying the evil globalist government, the evil globalist corporations. I haven't changed my mind on that. But then you say, but David, the good old American people, they're the good guys. I don't know about that. It's the same thing like I told you about the FBI, like evil FBI management, but those good, hardworking FBI field agents, they're the good guys. Nah, they're weak. Pension to paycheck. They will follow the orders to do whatever they got to do to keep their paycheck and pension. They might not want to do it, but they'll do it. So what I'm trying to say is this whole deal that the management is evil, but the people are good. I don't know. Some of the experiences that I've had dealing with American citizens, it is absolutely mind-boggling. And it would have changed my view of joining the military in the first place. See, most of our military members still would join. You want to know why? Because they don't really care about patriotism. It's just the best paycheck and best pension they could get. So it is what it is. But if you're going to join for duty, honor, country, you are joining it to say, listen, I am fighting for you people. I want fucking respect. And if the people are like, fuck you, I'm not going to respect you, well, then I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to join them. That's why I quit. I'm not going to join the government. So you have to ask yourself, why are people in the government? Because they know what I'm saying. They know the people don't really respect them, the military. So why are they doing it? Because it's the best paycheck and pension they have. They're basically government mercenaries. That's what I'm saying. I say, let's just come out there and just say, why are we thanking military veterans for their service? Do you really think this Iran war, similar like Iraq and Afghanistan, is going to improve your life if you're an average American citizen? Now, if you're part of the corporations, the government, that could improve your life. War is money. War is power. War is influence. So, oh yeah, I mean, people made a ton of money. You know, look at, you know, it just comes to my mind, but Eric Prince, I've told you in other episodes, I've had run-ins with Eric in China. He was doing business directly with the Chinese government. So war is profitable for some people. But for the average U.S. citizen, you're going to get fucked in the asshole. What do I mean by that? Well, your taxes are going to go up. The dollar's going to go down. Welcome to inflation. And oh, by the way, you travel around the world with that American passport, you're going to be a prime target for kidnappings and terrorist attack. And you deserve it because you're going to be just the same thing I said about the China. You're going to say, dude, I'm just an American citizen. I'm not part of the U.S. government. I'm not part of the military. I didn't bomb Iran. Well, sorry, buddy. You're an American citizen. You're part of it. I mean, I don't tell anyone I'm an American citizen overseas. Fuck no. An Israeli citizen, an American citizen, not good citizenships to be talking about. I tell people I'm fucking Canadian or something like that. As much as we make fun of the Canucks, they at least go under the radar better than the Americans. I mean, there's not that much hatred for the Canadians. But you Americans going around there, yeah, man, let's bomb these fucking countries. Yeah, we'll fucking do that. Okay, you're overseas. I'm telling you, you better watch out. But you can tell I'm a little agitated because, like I said, if that was a foreign national saying it, I wouldn't be triggered. Or if that was just a liberal, I don't mind. I don't mind liberals that like, fuck you, fuck white men, fuck military. But it's the typical, what do we hate? This fakeness. And I'm dealing with these dumb fuck MAGA people. What you're seeing now is the smart people in MAGA are dropping out because they don't follow Donald Trump. They follow principles. So the people that are remaining loyal to MAGA, the DNA is dropping. And these people are just fucking drones. It's just like, just follow Donald Trump. You don't do that. In leadership, you follow your principles. And I think the higher educated people, now I've said, I still think Donald Trump is the best we got. And I still think MAGA is the closest to nationalism, but it's veering. And there's more and more people that are starting to critique MAGA. And the diehard MAGA, the DNA is getting lower, lower, lower. And that's why I am fully in favor of a ground invasion, full ground invasion of Iran. And I'm fully supporting of a military draft. The best thing for America. Just let's do it. And these MAGA diehard people, it is their chance to show patriotism, ship off in the military like these faggot MAGA people who've never served the military. I'm a military veteran and they love to support military. And I'm asking them for one thing. Can you please repost? And the comments that I get are so fucking unpatriotic, such traitorism that I would love to see a military draft. Go for it. Anyway, let me go. Let's start going over this. Let me see if there's any comments. Let's go over some of the current news, and then we're going to go over this war. Let me just make sure. First one, let's just take a look. Let me make sure we can see it. Just take a look at this right here, and then ask yourself, what exactly are we fighting for in Iran? Our countries are falling apart at the homeland. What are we doing overseas? You know, probably see this, put this music on. Hopefully everyone could see that and just say, man, what the hell happened there? This one, let me see. This is funny. So let me show you. I don't think people really understand how traitorous these MAGA people are. Now, remember, I am not a supporter of the Democrats. I've said that I'm not going Democrats. But the point is what we all dislike is fakeness. I actually have a lot of respect for someone that says, I don't like white men, I don't like military, whatever it is. Hey, they said their stance, And so I should not expect anything then. But these MAGA or military, they are some of the fakest fucks. So we're going to talk about this one congressman. I didn't know this background. I've said many times, he's a Navy SEAL, and I'll do videos on these special operations guys. A lot of them are fucking yo-yos. Even Delta SEAL Team 6, I'll give you stories on them. Overrated. This guy's a former Navy SEAL and congressman. So he's not a private citizen. He's a congressman on your taxpayer dime. I guess he had some beef with Donald Trump. I'll show you the clip. I've been in touch with him. He is an absolute shitbag coward. This is Derek Van Oden. What a piece of shit. Let's just look at this clip here, and this is on Twitter. Let me make sure, 1 second. Hopefully everyone can see. Supposedly, so that's Derek Van Oden. Hopefully everyone can see. He's a shitbag. He knows about me. He is too afraid to communicate with me. That's what a coward and a lazy piece of shit he is as a former Navy SEAL. Again, I'm not impressed with Navy SEAls. I know Americans, you've eaten the fucking you've eaten a fortune cookie of these special operation people, and you think they're so much. They're not. They're overrated. But anyway, I didn't know he had some beef with Donald Trump. Look at what Donald Trump does to this guy. He treats him like a bitch. Hopefully everyone could read this. That's Derek Van Oden, the Navy SEAL. What an absolute piece of shit and coward. He still tries. He's like, yeah, man, I want to shake Donald Trump's hand, man. Yeah, I'm special. No, you're not. If anyone sees it, this is the Twitter right here. This is the person, Ashley Haynes. This is his, I don't know, secretary, assistant, something like that. I've written him many times. I've said this is on Twitter. He's an absolute piece of shit, and he's more common than you think. But again, he's not a private citizen. He's a congressman on your taxpayer dime. And this is what he does when a military veteran has government corruption. He's lazy, he's scared, or he doesn't care. This guy, and again, not as uncommon as you think. Let's go to the next one here. The one I wanted to put here, I told you this is about Dan Bongino. You know what I thought about Dan Bongino again? This is how much, hopefully everyone says that. Dan Bongino, this is what I thought about. Dan Bongino has 7.4 million followers. And this is what you're going to happen. The reason when they're in the government, why they don't want to block me, because it really shows up. So a congressman, Dan Bongino was deputy director. They don't want to block me because it's more evident where I told you many times, they have a duty to respond to me. But once they're out, like Derek Van Oden, that piece of shit, once he gets out of the Congress, then his private Twitter, he'll block me. I'm telling you, he'll block me. Hey, Shane, good morning to you, buddy. So he will block me on Twitter. So the point is, let's go to Dan Bongino here. Just think about this. 7.4 million followers just on X. And oh, by the way, something's happening on Rumble where my followers keep dropping. Supposedly, he's a significant stakeholder in Rumble. I think he's like 5% just for him and influence. I mean, he's part of the deep state. But what I'm trying to say is this guy is so busy, has such a huge audience, 7.4 million just on X, let alone, he's on Rumble, he's doing other stuff, and he takes the time to block me. I'm telling you, I know leadership much more than the common man. They're very scared about my story. You could believe me now or believe me later, but I'm telling you, my story is very powerful. For the same reason that the American government will spin good stories and cover up bad stories. Pat Tillman's a great example. They covered that thing up and they just rode that thing. What a bunch of lies. My story's not good, especially how I talk about the corporations, my lawsuit, how I won in China, this and that. And the FBI are absolute cowards. They have the balls to go behind my back and destroy my life, but they don't have the balls to face me, just like Dan Bongino, piece of shit. And I've said many times, I don't believe anymore. I've said this many times. This is why I believe our capitalist system is broken. It's not capitalism anymore. That I believe that if you're in the business of leadership, of politics, of religion, where you influence people, you have to pass through the gatekeepers. Otherwise, you're not going to go. So the point being is it's a rigged system. It's a rigged game. The amount of censorship that I've gotten, and as a military veteran, I'm not fighting for this fucking country anymore. I have no doubt about it that Dan Bongino is also censoring me now on Rumble. I have no doubt. But you have to use common sense. Part of the 7.4 million followers just on X, and ask him how busy Dan Bongino is. But he still takes the time. I've got like 1,000 followers. I used to have over 10,000 followers on X, which is an interesting point. Why was I suspended 3 times on X? But anyway, he takes the time, either him or one of his henchmen, to do what? The same reason I told Americans, I'm just asking you to do one thing. Take your finger and press repost. And guess what, Dan Bongino? He's taken probably a very busy schedule, millions and millions of people. But for some reason, he knows about me and he says, block David Baumblatt, because he knows he's a piece of shit, total fucking piece of shit. But it just makes you just wonder, Shane, Americans are truly going to rip each other. I am telling you, you have no clue. These American citizens, I want you to show how are American citizens treating a military veteran that's just a whistleblower. Anyone who's seen my videos, go back in my videos and ask yourself, how many times have I said, give me money, buy my book, give me, buy my services, meaning monetary? Literally, go back to all my videos. I would be amazed if it's more than 1% of what I talk with. Many times I don't mention it at all. The only thing I mention is to do something totally free, and that's repost my thing about whistleblower. That's it. Because a whistleblower is a public good. When there's government corruption, today it's me, tomorrow it could be your children or you, meaning it's corruption, it's government corruption. That's why everyone supports whistleblowers, because when there's corruption, I say again, it will affect you sooner or later. For the same reason that scumbag Senator Chuck Grassley, I reported it, that the FBI was illegally, unconstitutionally spying on Americans, a lot of them be Muslims, even though they weren't doing anything illegal. But guess what? Yesterday it was Muslims, we're talking American citizens, and tomorrow it could be Christians. It is me, and it could be you. That's why we support whistleblowers. That's all. It has nothing to do with money. Anyone knows my story. Anyone knows my personality. I never wanted to come out public. Never. And that piece of shit, Dan Bongino, who's a fucking scumbag, who talks about when he's a podcaster, hey man, I'm a patriot, man. I support military veterans. That little dick never served in the military, by the way. So he should, because his principles, he should have supported me. But then he was in the FBI. Now it's the same thing with Congressman Derek Van Oden. I've said many times, I am not asking the government for help. I'm telling them to do your job. If you're a U.S. citizen, a private citizen, I am asking you for your help. You don't have to help me, but it's nice if you support military veterans. But the government, Dan Bongino, they have a duty. They have a lawful duty to investigate government corruption. They are dereliction in their duty. Our government's corrupt. It's going to get worse. But what I can say is the amount of, I've had, generally speaking, I have to admit, I've had more negative experiences with American citizens than positive. Even this woman named Dana Loesch, remember she's got like over 1 million. What she accused me of being is she's also a piece of shit. I'm telling you, I truly hope the military draft comes. I truly hope a ground invasion comes, and you are going to start seeing what real America is. And what is real America? It's going to collapse. People, you are going to see all this fakeness come to light, because you're kind of living it through me. Just like as I tell you my experiences in China through the American corporation selling you out, you're also thinking, how does America support a military veteran? How does our government? They don't. So you should say, wow, This guy, David, he's a FBI military veteran, Eagle Scout, typical, American. And he's been treated like dog shit. If David is treated like that, excuse me, probably you are too. I mean, do you think you'd be treated differently than me? I mean, do you? I don't think so. So what does it mean? What's the level in America? It's not good at all. Let's go to the next one. Excuse me. Yeah, let me just do this quick because we want to get into the war thing, but 1 second. Let me do this. This is another thing where I disagree with MAGA. I will do a video on this. This is about, I don't know, some French girls say they want to convert to Muslim. This is what I say here, and I'll explain it. Let me make sure everyone can see that. Oh, I fully support it. So let me explain this quick. This is not our episode, but we'll do a couple things and we'll get to the war. I have no doubt about it. Islam is not our number one enemy. I'm not saying the West is Islam, and I'm not into immigration, to include all these good Iranian. I got no problem with Iranian people, but the West ain't your home. Go to Iran and figure it out. But the point being is as a nationalist, there's some things about Islam that I like. But here's the point. We'll do another video. If you gave me a beautiful white woman, obviously I only prefer white women, a beautiful white woman who says, listen, I'm a virgin, I'm a Muslim, and I have no problem getting dressed up in a black garbage bag so no other man can see me, and I will be loyal to you. And oh, by the way, you can have 3 more wives besides me, versus a white woman that says, man, I got a really stinky pussy. I've done some OnlyFans, and I love showing my tits out to everyone. But I'm a Christian. I just did a gangbang with 8 niggers last weekend, but I'm a Christian, whatever that means. I don't know what a Christian means anymore. I have no problem. I'll take a Muslim woman. As long as she's a beautiful white woman, I got no problem with that. I don't know everything about Islam and that. I get it, but we're just trying to do face value. I will take a beautiful white woman who's a virgin who says, but I'm a Muslim, versus a white woman who says she's a Christian, which I don't know any more about Christian. We'll do stories on that. Everyone's a Christian these days, who's an absolute stinky pussy whore. I'll take the Muslim woman. I have no problem. So this whole deal that Islam is the war, no, it's not. It's no. Now we have an immigration problem where too many Middle Easterners and Africans are immigrating to America. We have a problem. But this whole thing that Islam is our enemy, I'll tell you, I really like how Islam handles feminism. But let's not dwell too much. That'll be another episode. Let's go to this one right here. This one is pretty interesting. So this one is good on Donald Trump. We're going to talk about, we're going to talk about the NATO thing in this episode a little. But I fully support this. In fact, hopefully you could read this. I fully support this move by Donald Trump. Win-win in Germany. He says he's considering withdrawing troops from Germany. Total win-win. I disagree with how he's treating NATO, though. NATO needs to defend us in Iran. He's wrong. But it's a raw deal. It is time for us to financially decouple from NATO, take that money and spend it on American citizens, and then force, or whatever Europeans do, it is time for the Europeans to spend their own taxpayer money and build their own military, and to be ultimately responsible for the security of at least Europe. That principle, Donald Trump is absolutely right on. But this shit about Greenland he's talking about, or he's like, you NATO are traitors, you should support. That's not what NATO is. NATO is a defensive treaty. We're going on the offensive in Iran. You can either understand this, believe me or not. That's not part of NATO treaty. But anyway, Donald Trump's feeling of, screw it, it's time to financially pull out, get our troops out. He's absolutely right. And it's time, particularly Germany, same thing with Japan, it's time for them to build their militaries up. And that'll create a safer world. It'll balance more Russia, it'll balance more China, meaning a strong Japanese military, a strong German military. It will do good for all people, and it'll save American taxpayer money. So in terms of that, that's good. Let me just see if there's one more thing here. I was going to do this. Nah, I was going to go to some other thing. Let's go into today's episode. Okay, let's see here. Americans going to rip them bar chain. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to talk about Iran. And what I've said many times is this, and this is the arguments that I'm getting with MAGA. I could care less. I'm like I said, I don't pay my American taxpayer money, and I'm not in the military. So I don't have a thought. I could care less. If you want to go to Taiwan, I could care less. I'm just meaning people think I have a dog in this fight. Not really much. I mean, and at the same time, my audience or my tribe are white men. But I really believe in that saying, you could drag a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And there's a lot of white men I'm not going to convince. It is what it is. But anyway, this whole war, you'll see how this thing's going to go. It is going to go bad. And here's the point. And think about this. If you think I'm wrong, answer this. It's very similar to Iraq and Afghanistan. What exactly is the objective? Because Donald Trump is using the wrong terminology, probably because he's being educated, lack of a better word, by incompetent generals. And I get what Pete Hegseth is doing. They were going in the right direction because the military was getting worse, but it's not going to work. But anyway, Donald Trump keeps saying, when the war ends, when the war ends. That's not the objective, is when the war ends. The objective is when you accomplish your objective. What is that objective? To totally eliminate all nuclear capable. I mean, think about it. Let's take 100. We're not even going to say American citizens. We're going to say 100 congressmen, and we're going to say Republicans. Let's line up 100 Republican congresspeople, 100 of them. These are congresspeople, and these are MAGA. Line 100 of them. This is what we do in the military. This is how we form it. So if you're a battalion commander in the military, we'll talk a little about the 82nd Airborne, pretty interesting unit. We're going to say you're a battalion commander. When you're a battalion commander, which is a lieutenant colonel, you have what's called company commanders below you, which would be captain. That was the rank I left the military captains. Making sure you understand, or your people understand, what is the mission, what is the commander's intent, you would ask them. So usually in a battalion, you might have 4 companies, Alpha Company, Bravo, Charlie, Delta. You would say, Alpha Company Commander, what is the mission? And you obviously want to separate them because you don't want them all talking and say, what's the mission? Bravo Company Commander, what's the mission? What's the mission? And you would be surprised that even in the military, they're like, I thought it's the objective is that. And the point is, now I'm going to ask you, these are not normal American citizens. These are congressmen. These are only Republican congressmen. Take 100, and you're going to ask them, what is the objective in this conflict in Iran? And I have no doubt about it, it will be a minimum of 50% that's divergent. That's like, what? So what is it? I guess this is my best guess. We are going to eliminate all nuclear capabilities for Iran? I guess so. Okay. Then the second part, how do we do that? We're going to destroy all their capabilities to create nuclear weapons. Okay, but what happens in 5 to 10 years? I guess we're going to keep doing that. But the point is, you get it. I understand if a normal American citizen might not understand the objective. I'm talking about congressmen, let alone the military. What do you think your bet is if we lined up 100 Republican congressmen and we said, what exactly is the mission in Iran? They're all MAGA. I would be very generous if 50% were cohesive, if 50%. At least 50% divergent. It could be even worse than that. That just kind of leaves you on this. But anyway, let's go a little bit in terms of this. Now, this is an interesting point about leadership. This is what we have. We have a lot of retarded traitors, and we're talking MAGA people, Bill O'Reilly, Fox News, Newsmax, and they say this. They say, listen, Iran has always been the enemy for decades. Even Donald Trump, decades ago, talked about it. And they're going to come up with whatever reason they want, like it's all part of Israel, but not really. It's also part of America. Whatever reason they want, they are going to eventually say, this is a justified war. I'm going to tell you something on leadership. It's called lead by example. And the question, we're going to go to this clip here from, I'm forgetting his name. He's the former governor, Jesse Ventura. And Jesse's on it. Here's the point. Newsmax, Fox, whatever reason that you think that this is a justified war, would you send your kids in the military if they were drafted? Or would you pick up your rifle and go in the military and do this? And 99% would say, I'm not doing it. I think it's a good idea, but I'm not going to die for this. And my kids are not going to die for it. That means it's not that important. It's not that important. That's also something else. I want to say this whole bullshit about Donald Trump's kid being too tall. Oh my God. This is also another reason I don't want to. There's been studies that the higher, I never really considered myself that smart, but without a doubt, above average intelligence. I've always known that. I've always been an above average intelligent person. But some people, I do feel like I'm a genius. Some people, I got to admit, Harvard is overrated, but man, I ran into some smart Jews at Harvard, and they also made me look like a moron. So I'm sort of in this gray area, but above average. But anyway, back to the story. Donald Trump's child isn't enlisting because he's too tall. Oh my God. These are MAGA people too. And again, the only frustration I get is with MAGA people. I don't have a problem with the liberals because, it's the same thing I talk about white women. I have an issue with white women. The non-white women, I don't have a problem with them. Asian, Black, Indian, they don't really bother me. They're fine. White women, I have a problem with. So anyway, back to this Trump's son being too tall. First of all, it's not right. It's a lie. Meaning you can join the military being tall. There's David Robertson. He graduated from the Naval Academy. Now, it is true that Donald Trump's son could not do certain jobs. Even me at 6'5", there was a job in the military called the Army called armor, tanks, going into tanks. It was, for lack of a better word, I felt claustrophobic. 6'5" in a tank, it's not right. So without a doubt, there will be some, what's called MOSs, military occupational specialty, that Donald Trump's son cannot do. But there's plenty of other jobs he could do. We have what's called the Adjutant General Corps, which is basically HR. He could easily do it. But that's besides the point. This is why MAGA are mentally fucking retarded. It's turned into a cult. That's besides the point that he could serve. You don't think Donald Trump, if Donald Trump wanted his kid to go into, he doesn't. Donald Trump dodged the draft 5 times. And if Barron Trump wanted to go into the military, Barron doesn't want to. But if they did, do you know how much Donald Trump, who's a salesman, would sell this thing? Oh my God, it'd be on the news. He'd be like, oh, does everyone know that Barron's enlisted in the military? Do you know he did 10 push-ups yesterday? Do you know he's doing that? Donald Trump, which in some ways is true, meaning it is evidence when the president's son joins the military. Fox News would be kissing ass. Barron Trump's in the military. Oh my God, he's this and that. Meaning it would be one of the biggest selling points to Trump and patriotism. The Republican Party would it's a little like Pat Tillman. They would love it. The reason he's not doing it has nothing to do with height, because he still could do it. He's not doing it because Donald Trump, who dodged the draft 5 times, says, listen, Barron, your DNA is too high to join the military with those low DNA military members. And I'm not disagreeing all with Donald Trump saying. It is what it is. And Barron says, you're right, Dad. I don't want to be with those fucking low DNA schmuckatellis. That's why. Otherwise, or you don't think Donald Trump would, you don't think Donald Trump could say, I am the commander in chief, and even though there's a law or rule that says my son is too tall, as the commander in chief, I'm going to override that law, that rule, and my son, you think anyone's going to argue with him? The MAGA would be the most patriotic president ever. So these dumb MAGA people are like, Barron's not joining because he's too tall. I'm so glad I'm out of the fucking military. I can't believe I would have died for these dumb fucking Americans. Trust me, I say the same thing about the Chinese. They are some gooky fucking chinky ching people. The only people I can actually respect, it sounds, is the Jews. The Jews are probably the smartest people in the world, and they look at the Goyim as these are some stupid fucking Goyim people. But I look to the MAGA like that because, again, they're the people I focus on because I don't even deal with you could say the liberals, even though the far left. But these dumb MAGA, that's why Barron Trump's not doing it, because he's too tall. Oh my God, I'm so happy I'm not in the military anymore. And I really hope a military draft. I am really hoping Donald Trump does it. We got to get going. We talked a lot. Let's go to this part. I'll read the comments. Anyone's got any comments, you write in there and I'll do it. Let's go to Jesse Ventura. He's got a point.
In World War II, my father had 6 bronze battle stars in Europe. My mother was a nurse in North Africa, which predated Normandy, fighting Rommel, the Desert Fox, the greatest German general. Both my parents were World War II veterans. My brother and I are both Vietnam veterans and member of the Navy UDT SEAL. We both did 2 tours to Southeast Asia. So everyone in my family is a war veteran. I wanted to get that out right now, so it'll help with the things that I'm going to say to you in the moments to come. There's a simple thing as a leader, and you know this having been in the military. Trump wouldn't know it because he's a draft-dodging coward. But anyway, it's this. A war is justified if you're willing to send your kids. Because how can you send...
So I'm making a point, and this is where leadership is. There are some points that Jesse Ventura and we disagree with. He's a little... I don't want to use the word communist. There's things we don't agree with. I'm telling you, though, he's on it on here. He is 100% on it. We'll explain, but I'll let him finish.
Somebody else's kids to a war if you won't send your own. So I'm calling right now for Barron Trump. Donald Trump's son, after all, he's had 3 wives. He's had kids by each wife, and nobody's ever served in the military to my...
Also, I want to forget it. There's anyone that I've talked about, I talk a lot about DNA, and it's part of leadership. You've probably heard the phrase, are leaders born or are they made? I'm sorry to tell you, but most of them are born. But meaning part of West Point's formula is they recruit people that are already leaders. Like me, I was president of Students Against Drunk Driving, vice president of Student Council, Eagle Scout. Now you might think that's important or not, but whatever in your mind are leadership traits, West Point, because West Point's all about leadership, even though it's gone down the toilet. It's gone down the toilet. But they're already recruiting for people where the cake is already half-baked. When you immediately arrive at West Point, you already have leadership in you. It's made. So what am I saying? Not only did Donald Trump dodge the draft 5 times, if you go back in his family history, his father dodged the draft in Germany, or his grandfather. That was one of the reasons why they were going to go back to Germany, but then they didn't, and they came to America. The point being is there is draft dodging in Donald's past. It's part of DNA. It's the same thing in my DNA. I've had military family all the way from the Civil War, but I didn't do it for a paycheck and a pension. I did it for duty on our country. And because we don't have duty on our country now, my kids, no fucking way they're going to serve. I mean, I can't force them, but I will do whatever reasonably possible. They are not going in the military because I didn't go in the military for money. I went in there for duty on a country. And if it's not for duty on a country, then fuck it. I'm going to be a sleazy lawyer or banker on Wall Street. It's all the fucking same to me. But there's a part of DNA. And we're going to finish Jesse, but I say it again. To all these cocksucker Fox News and Newsmax, then Jesse Waters, it says, I think it's good to go in Iran. Would you go, Jesse, you piece of shit who never served in the military and you fucking are avoiding me? Would you take your faggot ass and join the military? Would your kids? Answer is no. Then it's not important. You're being what's called a paper tiger. But if a news person, Fox News says, my son is enlisting tomorrow and he will go to Iran, and if he fucking dies, he dies, I would be like, okay. It's called lead by example. I would still politely disagree with him. I say, I still disagree with you that I don't think this is a justified war. But you're telling me your son is literally enlisted today and he's going to get shipped out to Iran, and if he dies, you think, for duty on our country, for the country, it's justified? It changes my opinion of you drastically. But how many stories are that? None. 1% maybe. And Donald Trump, and I like him, but you have to call a spade a spade. He's a draft dodger. His family comes from draft dodging. His whole family has never served in the military. Barron ain't going. So the part of is, if this is such an important war, if this is such a big threat, then you as a leader need to lead by example. And if you're too old to enlist in the military, even though the question is, why didn't you do it when you're younger, Donald? Then your kid, like Barron, needs to go in. And if you don't want Barron to enlist, or Barron doesn't want to enlist, then don't bullshit us and say this war is really important. It ain't. It's important because there's people at the top that are going to make a lot of money, but the regular Americans are not. But there's a lot of stupid fucking MAGA people that like to say, I support military veterans. And I say, can you support me, man? Can you just repost? No, I think, fuck you. I'm telling you, this country's going to go down.
Knowledge, a Trump in the last 100 years has never done military service. Well, Barron, you can change that. Enlist in the United States military right now. Do something your father didn't have the courage to do. Do something your father didn't have the patriotism to do. I want to see a Trump in the military. Everybody in my family has served, so I think I can say that with all due confidence. Come on, Trumps. Don't just reap the benefits of this free world. Somebody put on the uniform, and that's you, Barron. And I heard the excuse that Barron might be too tall. David Robinson served on active duty. He was 7 feet tall before he ever went.
Remember, Donald Trump's the commander-in-chief. I mean, we all know this. He has the power. The commander-in-chief can change the rules. It's the biggest bullshit. I don't even know how these rumors even start. It's so retarded.
To the San Antonio Spurs basketball team, David Robinson went to the United States Navy Military Academy. He's one of my officers, not directly, but he would have been.
All right, let's keep going on this. Now, here's something else with Donald Trump. Now, again, I truly believe that if you're going to get into leadership, which is censorship, there has to be some form of morals and ethics, religion, philosophy, spirituality. That's the difference between leaders and managers. This is a clip from Joe Rogan. Let's just see where this is going. But I'm telling you, MAGA has turned into a cult. And if you're MAGA, then back up your principles. And what does MAGA say? You support military veterans. I am a military veteran, and I am not welcome back in America. My passport has been flagged, and I'm on the FBI terrorist watch list, and the FBI are cowards going behind my back, but they don't have the balls to face me along with all congressmen. All I'm asking you to do is repost my message, and let's get either the media or the government to start answering it. Or we could do like the Epstein files and just do a cover-up. If you're not MAGA and you're a liberal piece of shit or whatever, I don't get along with them, but you're like, I'm a liberal. I don't support military veterans. I have no argument for you, zero argument. But if you're MAGA, all I'm asking you to do is learn Leadership 101. Lead by example. If your principle is support military veterans, I am a government corruption whistleblower, and all I'm asking you to do is zero money, repost it, and it is time for the congressman or government or the corrupt FBI to start answering it. Back your principles up. Let's see what Joe Rogan has to say. This is starting to get weird, though.
Oh. His high-level commander says, don't be worried because Trump is anointed by Jesus Christ to bring back the return.
Oh, no.
To bring back Jesus' return on earth. Commander claimed Trump was anointed by Jesus to cause Armageddon to justify the Iran tax.
Wow. See, that's like up there with Allah will protect me.
Exactly.
It's the same shit.
It's the same shit. It's just coming from a different religion.
Yeah,
But it's the same mindset. This is all part of God's divine plan, specifically referenced numerous citations out of the book of Revelations referring to Armageddon and the imminent return of Jesus Christ.
Ay, ay, ay.
And he said, the superior had a big grin on his face when he said all of this, which made his message seem even more crazy.
Wow.
Bro.
Scary
That's
shit.
just as scary. Those are just as scary as suicide bombers. It's like people that are like true believers in something that...
I'm going to take a different take than Joe Rogan. I'm going to take a little different take, but we're in agreement. I've said many times, America is a Christian nation. So I don't mind that leaders feel that God is on their side. World War II, Gott mit uns. Everyone who probably understands German knows what I'm talking about. The problem, though, is we're not a Christian nation anymore. We're not. We don't support military veterans. Ding, ding, ding. We're not a Christian nation anymore. We're not a European nation anymore, by the way. And we're not a nation of freedom. The amount of free speech, First Amendment's done. So what I'm saying is I disagree with Joe Rogan in a sense that it does get dangerous. I agree with him in this. When you start believing that truly you're some type of Messiah, even though maybe you're right. I mean, again, I'm not an expert on this, but I do believe that great societies need to have that moral compass. And the West, the moral compass was Christianity. The problem is we're not Christians anymore. I say again, we'll go to the next video, but it is time to stop bullshitting us. We are not a Christian nation anymore. We are not a European nation anymore. We don't have free speech. I've been suspended 3 times on X. I have to depend on a rich billionaire, trillionaire named Elon Musk who could suspend me in a heartbeat. That's free speech. That's what we're fighting for. We don't have it. And so the point is, it's getting worse and worse. So, but I don't mind of a religious sort of country. I don't mind that. But I see where Joe Rogan's getting at. Let's go another one. This is about the military draft. Now, or going in the military. Now, my point's very, very, because again, I don't have skin in this game anymore. I don't pay any of my taxes, and I'm not in the military anymore. But I like the sounds of a good ground invasion, and let's do the draft. Let's see what the U.S. military's up to, though.
Army National Guard as well as the Army Reserve. Looks like the U.S. Army just recently raised their maximum enlistment age for new recruits from the age of 35 to 42, which applies to regular Army, both active duty, and the Army National Guard, as well as the Army Reserve. Now, this updated policy is coming from a revision to the Army Regulation 601 TAC 210, which was published on March 20th of 2026, and it takes effect on April 20th of 2026. So by 4/20, you'll be able to enlist up to the age of 42 with or without prior military service. Kind of an interesting date to pick. Now, that's obviously as long as you meet all the other requirements like medical fitness, ASVAB scores, background checks, and all that stuff. Minimum age stays the same as 17 years old with parental consent or 18 without parental consent. Now, apparently the Army is still facing some ongoing recruiting challenges with some shortfalls in recent years due to a strong civilian job market and low propensity to serve among young Americans. Right now, to join the Air Force and Space Force, you can be up to the age of 42. Coast Guard, you can be up to 41 to 42. Navy, you can be up to 41. And the Marine Corps is still the lowest, around 28 or 29 for active duty. Now, this isn't totally new because apparently the Army actually previously raised the age limit to 42 during the Iraq-Afghanistan wars in the mid-2000s during the global war on terror, and then they lowered it back down to 35 in 2016 after they had kind of like achieved the goals that they needed based on numbers. Now, prior service personnel sometimes have waivers beyond 35, even up to recently.
I think you get the point. Let me put this. I'm going to do videos on special operations. These guys are overrated. But if you're in the special forces, so we're talking Green Berets, we're talking Rangers, SEALs, MARSOC, you name it, they are a level above. They're mostly filled with white guys, by the way, but that's a different story. But we've been fighting this war on terror in a special operations. Special operations does not win wars. Special operations do special missions. For instance, the Osama bin Laden, whatever, capture assassination, that was pretty difficult. Job well done. The Venezuela, which to me was an invasion, they're saying it's law enforcement, it's bullshit. But that was, that was Hollywood skill level. But you have to understand, our military, we're talking 90% plus, is filled with conventional soldiers. And I'm a little bit of expert on this because I served in the Army. So once you take away special operations and you look at conventional soldiers, it is what it is. The Army is, kind of the bottom of the barrel, meaning the Air Force has a higher level of intelligence as that. I would say the Marine Corps, which is a smaller corps, we're talking conventional, is at a higher level than the regular Army. We're not going to talk about the airborne 87. That's different. We'll get into that. I'm talking the regular, even Coast Guard and even the Navy. So what I'm trying to say is what he's talking about, enlisted, recruitment, I am telling you, when our military gets really pushed and we're body back, it's going to break. It is going to break. So I said, I'm going to do a video on the Navy SEALs and the Rangers. They're overrated. But compared to the conventional military, they're in a league of their own, meaning they are much more durable, reliable, and competent. Our regular military, particularly the Army, meaning a lot of guys that want to enlist, they get rejected from the Air Force. They're not smart enough. They might get rejected by the Marine Corps. They're not tough enough. They get rejected maybe by the Navy, which has maybe also a little bit higher. And then they go to the Army. And I went to West Point. I'm very proud of the Army, but it is what it is. It's the biggest branch in terms of the amount of manpower. And when you get to the, for lack of a better word, the low level, like the regular soldiers. And here's the difference. I was in the military like 20 years ago. It's different now. I mean, the first thing we'll do videos is, I cannot believe how many blacks are in there, Hispanics, how Mexicans. It's changed. And if you think those people are going to go to Iran and be like, dude, I'm going to fucking kill every Iranian I can for duty on our country, I think you are in for a major wake-up call. But when the Rangers and the SEALs go in there, they are in a different level. But that's why they're called special. They're very small. You cannot, think about it. We captured Osama bin Laden. Awesome. Did we win the war on terror? No. We went to Venezuela. Phenomenal operation. I mean, I still believe it's Hollywood what we did in terms of capture the husband and the wife in Maduro. Did we win in Venezuela? Oh, it's going to go to shit. So the point is, don't fool yourself. We could do extremely exemplary special operation missions. That doesn't mean we win the war, though, people. Relax. I mean, people are already saying we won in Venezuela. It's like George W. Bush, Venezuela, mission accomplished. Now, Maduro and his wife, absolutely, even though we're going to keep morals out of the picture. That was a fucked up in terms of illegal, whatever. We could argue about that. But competence-wise, that was pretty impressive. I mean, I would be amazed if anyone's like, not impressed. I'm very impressed. That doesn't mean the war, though. I mean, all I could say is, I don't know, this could be a bad example. It's like going out to dinner and the dessert are special operations, but the main meal, that's the conventional military. It's apples and oranges. So did we win or accomplish our mission in Venezuela? No. I mean, I don't even know what our mission was, meaning Venezuela. So let's not confuse ourselves. Let's keep going to this one right here.
Fairly all new.
Okay, so what I want to do on this is the typical piece of shit newscaster. Now, I've said he's talked about NATO. Now, I've said Trump is threatening to pull out America. Let me put this on bigger. This is, again, I'm trying to be very fair with Donald Trump. And when he does write stuff, Donald Trump is threatening to pull out of NATO. I think he's on it. I've said many times. What I disagree with Donald Trump is threatening NATO, insulting NATO. And oh, by the way, this operation in Iran, that's not how NATO works. He's wrong. But NATO is a raw deal, meaning a negative deal for America. So financially, getting out of NATO, he's right. So he's threatening to pull out of NATO. He's right. But what this newscaster, who's never served in the military, he's a piece of shit. I know this guy. He's a typical chicken hawk. He loves wars because he works for the corporation, but he'll never serve in the military. But when he's talking about NATO, he's a dumb fuck. Let's hear what he says.
Europe's refusal to join forces with America against Iran is proof that we in America need some new friends. Not necessarily.
Really? I wonder who our friends are. We're not making American friends. This is what I'm telling too. You got to go back. There was I should paste it. I did a video on the Chinese soft power. It's dog shit. The Chinese don't get soft power. I could go into it. But now they're winning. Why? Because they don't even do anything. We are. So when he says we need new friends, who are new friends? I guess besides Israel, but that's a different story. But who are our friends? You think what we're doing? But I want you to think about that when we say, yeah, man, fuck Europe. Now remember, I said it's a raw deal with NATO, but they're Europeans. That's where our forefathers came from. We should have a good alliance with Germany, with the U. Remember, European Christianity, freedom. If we don't want to be friends with Europe, who are we going to be with? What, Saudi Arabia, Egypt? So who would it be? So again, NATO's a raw deal, but that doesn't mean we still should have a good alliance with them. So he says we need good friends. All right, who? What friends are we going to get, asshole?
Necessarily all new, but new ones. And the swamp is losing its mind over Trump's comments today in the Oval Office, flirting effectively with the end of NATO.
I think NATO's making a very foolish mistake, and I've long said.
No, NATO this is where Donald Trump, if I was NATO, I would stay out of Iran. And that's not part of the NATO charter. NATO is defensive. We're basically invading Iran. It is what it is. If you don't understand that, then I'm not here to do West Point 101 military. We are on an offensive military campaign. That has nothing to do with NATO. So if I was Europeans, especially if I was the Danes who he threatened to take Greenland, there's no way I would help out America and Iran. But that doesn't mean I still disagree. I still agree with Donald Trump. We should just get out of NATO financially.
Said that, I wonder whether or not NATO would ever be there for us. So this was a great test.
Are you rethinking the United States' relationship with NATO possibly getting out?
Well, I'm disappointed in NATO that we spend trillions of dollars on NATO.
And this is what I'm saying. We should stop doing that. We should financially get out of NATO, and we should close. I've said this many times. I'm very familiar with NATO. So I told you before, I was stationed similar to my name. There's a base, you can look it up. It's called Baumblatt, just like my name, Baumblatt, same Baumblatt. It is the largest American forces outside of America. It's in Germany. It's huge. And we spend so much money, not we, I don't pay my taxes anymore. You pay your taxes. You as American taxpayers spend so much money protecting Europe. That needs to stop. Donald Trump is absolutely correct. He should just start closing bases in Germany, in Italy, in Spain, in the UK. I mean, we're everywhere. We have military bases everywhere. He should just start closing military bases. But that doesn't mean we can't still have an alliance, but we need to stop paying for that.
And when they don't help us, I mean, it's certainly something that we should think about.
So let the conventional wisdom flow from the Potomac. Trump's Greenland chickens are coming home to roost. We've abandoned.
Oh, great. Yeah, because he fucked up. You don't say that. Anyone with any testosterone, again, what would we say if Canada started saying that about Alaska? We would be pissed. If I was a Danish man with testosterone, the Danes are caught. In fact, I should have done a video. The Danish prime minister is a woman. That says it alone. If you're a country and a woman is your leader, you're a cuck. But I think she lost the election. Meaning when countries start getting into danger, what do they revert back to? Old school leadership. And what is that? They need a strong man. But if I was a Danish man with testosterone, you don't talk to me like that with Greenland. You just don't. If you're a cuck, and I do believe Donald Trump looks at them like cucks, I agree. You Europeans are cucks. You get what you deserve. But to say there's not karma, there's karma. And what we did to the Danes, be careful.
And our allies, thus Europe, won't show up for us.
All right, now we talk about money all the time. Let's talk about where our military money is going.
The 82nd Airborne Division.
Okay, so let me talk about this. This is pretty interesting. I was not, we don't have, I should do a time on this. Let me do a quick talk on this. So any guy, I don't know if you've heard this story. Again, I don't know how much the civilians know. There's always like a ranger story that's controversy. So it's a little confusing to civilians. If you were in the U.S. Army, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's two definitions of rangers. There's Ranger School, where you get the Ranger tab, and then there's the Ranger Regiment, which is the actual special operations. So guys in the Army, they go to Ranger School and they say, I'm a Ranger. You're technically not, but there's guys who are in the Ranger Regiment that still didn't go to Ranger School, have a tab, but they are Ranger. I think if you're a civilian, what I'm saying is probably going to sound confusing. All I'm saying is it's similar to airborne school. I didn't go to Ranger School. My hat's off to those. So I went to airborne school, and there's a reason I didn't go to an airborne unit. In fact, there was an upperclassman, just so you know, the best knee surgeons in the U.S. Army are in two places, Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and West Point. Why? The West Point football team and the Airborne Corps. So many knees getting popped out. And what do I mean? The amount of injuries that happen in airborne training, it's crazy. My upperclassman from West Point was in the 82nd Airborne. He broke his back parachuting out. So I went to airborne school. I was the heaviest guy in my chalk. There's 60, I was about to say paratroopers, and anyone who's been in the military knows I'm not going to say that. It's a similar story with the Rangers. Anyway, there's 60 guys lined up in the chalk. The heaviest guys in the back, the lightest guys in the front. And when that first guy falls, and oh, by the way, the heavier you are, the faster you fall. I'm literally the last guy because I was so big at West Point, because I was the captain of the West Point boxing team, heavyweight. I was weighing sometimes up to 240 pounds. That's kind of big. I'll do stories on special operations, but special operations guys, airborne, I'd say the average size of them is probably 5'8", 150 pounds. It's just the way they do the mission. It's more about stamina. It's not about big muscles. But obviously, if you're a heavyweight boxer, you need big muscles. Anyway, so I'm the biggest guy. And when I dropped out, I am falling like a goddamn brick. And when I was done, I'm like, I am going to literally injure myself. I'll do it. I mean, I hit my head. I got knocked out. I mean, you hit hard. What I'm saying is when I graduated airborne school, my sergeant airborne, he pinned the wings on me. And he said, listen, you are now airborne qualified. The same when you graduate Ranger school, you are now Ranger qualified. But he said, don't ever say you're a paratrooper. He goes, you are not a paratrooper until you serve in an airborne unit and you have then deployed with them or trained with them and you're a paratrooper. So it's similar to that. I am airborne qualified, but I am not going to say I'm a paratrooper. What do I mean by that? Remember what I just said about special operations guys being high speed, but the regular soldiers not? The 82nd Airborne is different though. So it's kind of hard to explain, but I guess you could say, generally speaking, paratroopers aren't at the level of Rangers or Green Berets, but they are not normal soldiers. They're paratroopers. And I'll tell you, I served a lot with the guys who were in the 82nd, came to my unit, and it was hardcore, 80 deuce on the loose, and they were very motivated. Now, though, I do believe our military as a whole has become more and more, I guess you words, degraded. So meaning what 82nd Airborne or Rangers or Navy SEALs high speed was 20, 30 years ago, I think the whole thing's going to shit. But anyway, when they're sending the 82nd Airborne, this is upping the ante, because these guys are mobile. They could get anywhere in the world within 24 hours, parachute. I think it is like, the world is 75% water and 25%, drop zone, and they could go anywhere in the world. This is escalating, or this could be a bargaining chip that Trump is doing to skew the deal. That's smart. It's also costing us a ton of money, but no one cares about money. So meaning the point being is it's like just by activating the 82nd and deploying it, but it's like when I was in the FBI, it's all funny money. No one cares anymore. Meaning it's like, President Trump, we can increase our negotiation leverage with Iran by mobilizing the 82nd Airborne. True. How much is that going to cost? It's going to cost more billions of dollars. And I think Donald Trump is like, I don't give a shit. So I get it. No one cares about it, but sooner or later, the US dollar is going to go to shit. So it could be a tool to negotiate. It's going to cost us a ton of money, but it's all monopoly money until it goes to zero. But if it goes in, the 82nd Airborne is not like a normal soldier. They are paratroopers. So again, I am airborne qualified, but I would never say I'm a paratrooper.
The Pentagon is sending troops to the Middle East from one of the most elite U.S. Army units. Sources have told CBS News the deployment of the 82nd Airborne Division would include fewer than 1,500 troops. So far, the U.S. has relied on an air offensive with the war in Iran. I want to bring in Aaron McLean, the CBS News national security analyst and host of the School of War podcast. Aaron, great to be with you. Let's talk about this 82nd Airborne Division. What makes them so elite? What do they specialize in?
And I've said this many times, and that was horseshit with Donald Trump changing the name from Fort Bragg. They changed it back to Fort Bragg, but it's not named after the Confederate General Bragg. It was named after that. It was horseshit. The name should go back to how it originally was. The fort was named after a Confederate General Bragg. It is what it is. I don't have a problem being named Confederate. But I mentioned this before. I have never in my life stepped foot on Fort Bragg. But you hear these stories about stolen valor. A great way. Now, I can't talk about the Navy or the Marine Corps. I don't know. But if you meet a guy and he says he was a former U.S. Army military veteran, and that guy doesn't know about Fort Bragg, that guy's stolen valor. The point being is I would probably say Fort Bragg is the most iconic. I mean, if you're a former U.S. Army, you can debate me. I would probably say it is the most iconic. Man, that's where Green Berets are, the John F. Kennedy School of Special Forces, Delta Forces there, home of the Airborne Corps. It is probably, and it's strategically located near Washington, D.C., Delta, everything like that to protect the government. But it is probably the most iconic. So when they changed the name from Fort Bragg to Fort Liberty, what a smack in the face. But then Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump said, we're gonna change the name back to Fort Bragg. I was like, okay, good. But they said, but it's not gonna be, they're naming it after, there's another Bragg, I think his name was Private Bragg in World War II. So they keep the name Bragg, but it's not the Confederate General Bragg. It's some other fucking soldier named Bragg. I don't know. It sounded like a cuck move. So they're trying to be cool. They're like, so we're trying to please everyone. So we're going to please the liberals because it's not named after an evil Confederate general named Bragg, but we're pleasing the conservatives because it's still named Bragg. I mean, what a cuck. And that's what I'm saying. That's why the military's gone to shit. What a cuck. It should have been returned to Fort Bragg, named after the Confederate General Bragg. It's a different story, but I'm telling you, I would probably say Fort Bragg is the most iconic military for the U.S. Army. Again, I'm not talking about the Navy or the Marines, but if you meet a U.S. Army soldier and you said, hey, what do you think about Fort Bragg? Fort Bragg, never heard about it. That guy's probably stolen valor.
Sure. So this is one of the most storied organizations in the Army. Its history goes back to the First World War, and then in the Second World War, it becomes one of the nation's first airborne divisions, which, as the name suggests, means that its soldiers jump out of airplanes with parachutes, amongst other ways of getting into enemy territory. And to this day, that sort of thing, getting to the place controlled by the bad guys, but not needing a road or a port facility or something like that, to do it is a core competency for this unit. And elements of the 82nd Airborne Division, the elements that are being sent to the Middle East right now, are staged to deploy on really a hair trigger's notice, 18 hours in some cases, from when you get the call to when you're on a plane en route to the objective. So the last time we saw a unit, the 82nd, employed in a situation, a crisis response situation on the scale that we may be seeing now, was actually Afghanistan in 2021, where you actually saw the 82nd Airborne and the Marines securing the airfield in Kabul at the end there, if you recall, in a similar kind of crisis situation.
So how could these elite paratroopers be deployed in this particular war? Are they going to go to the Strait of Hormuz? Where's their priority here?
That's certainly one of the possibilities. Obviously, the administration, the military have not disclosed what their precise plans are, but you cite the Strait of Hormuz. That's certainly one option. You could imagine an insertion potentially with special operations forces, potentially also in cooperation with the Marines, into one of the pieces of terrain in and around the strait. There's some talk of a teeny tiny island called the Rock Island, which in recent days has been getting the nickname of the Hormuz toll booth. It's where the IRGC is controlling traffic through the strait right now. Targets like that are one possibility. There's a second category of targets, which I would say are targets tied to Iran's energy exports. Here, this place called Karg Island is on the front of everyone's minds. It's a somewhat larger piece of terrain further northwest in the Persian Gulf, through which about 90% of Iran's oil exports go. There's an airfield on that island. By the way, what the 82nd Airborne does really well is seize airfields. And then, of course, the third category, which we should not forget, is this unit trains regularly with the nation's most elite, the Tier 1 Special Operations Forces, the kind of forces you would expect to conduct a raid against Iran's nuclear sites. It's not impossible that this unit could be part of planning for something like that.
Interesting. Because so far we're hearing the Pentagon has relied on air.
So again, these 82nd Airborne are pretty high speed. These are prime candidates to get recruited if they weren't able to get into the Rangers straight out of boot camp. The Green Berets and the Rangers heavily recruit from the 82nd Airborne, where they were in the 82nd Airborne to begin with. They enlisted and they were a private, and then eventually they'll go on later on into the Ranger Regiment or the Green Berets and eventually Delta. So, and it's a major unit. And there's some other ones, the 101st Airborne, which is more air assault. But anyway, we'll get into it, but I'll end the video here. We'll go to another one. But what I'm saying is there's two things that's going to happen. Two things. Either one, we are getting ready for a fight, and it's going to be a meat grinder. And what do I mean by that? As high speed as the 82nd Airborne is, they're going to get rolled. We still don't. You think I'm wrong? Look at Afghanistan and Iraq. It's not going to be good. But if this is used as a bargaining trip from Trump and we get a deal, okay, it's an expensive bargaining trip, but like a chip. But like I said, I don't think anyone cares about taxpayer money anymore. Trump is going to do, and I predicted this, he will do just what the Democrats did, just like what other Republicans do. He's just going to print more money, and him and his kids are going to be with crypto and gold, and they'll make money. But you as a regular citizen, the dollar's going to go done. But you have no clue how much money, taxpayer money, is on this for pre-deployment. Or Donald Trump is not bluffing. He's going to send them in. And I've said many times, they're high speed. Get ready, though. It's going to be a meat grinder. And I'm telling you, if you think we're going to do a ground invasion in Iraq and we're going to win, and you're so confident and you're such a patriot, you enlist. You enlist, pick up your rifle and go there. But either way, let's take a look at this China man. Now, 1 second.
To embrace these trends.
I do want to say something. This guy has been making the rounds, and he's supported by the Chinese government. There's no doubt about it. All I could say about this guy is don't shoot the messenger, shoot the message. That's all I'm saying. Meaning, if he makes sense, then buy it. Whether he's being backed by the Chinese government or you think Fox News and CNN's not backed by the globalists. But there's no doubt, I realize he is absolutely backed by the Chinese government. But does that change my mind on him? No, it's good to have it in the back of your mind. But what he says, a lot of times I agree with. I don't think I've listened to this whole clip, but let's hear what he says about this war.
So who are going to be the winners and who are going to be the losers in this?
Right. So basically, whichever nation is most able to embrace these trends and transform their economies from one that is globally dependent to much more nationally dependent will survive. Okay, so that's why I think that Japan in Asia is actually better positioned than China, because the Chinese economy is too export orientated. Okay, the Chinese economy just relies on dumping cheap goods onto the global market, and you can do that again with cheap oil and a global marketplace. But once nations start to go into war, and then they no longer trade, then China is forced to become much more insular. And unfortunately, the Chinese economy is not balanced, meaning like it's completely dependent on exports, and consumers don't actually have any demand because consumers don't have any capital. They don't have any savings to spend money on. Consumers are afraid of the future. They lack confidence. Okay, so China is in a very tough situation because the Chinese economy and Chinese planners are not able to make the transition from one that is a global economy to one that is a much more regional economy. Okay, Japan, on the other hand, has a history and a record of making radical transformations when the existence of their nation is at stake. Okay, so you just look at Japan, you think, oh my God, Japan is completely screwed because they have an aging crisis, because they are completely dependent on resources from abroad. They don't actually have their own oil, and the Japanese economy, it has been in a deflationary spiral for the past 20, 30 years. Okay, you think Japan is completely screwed, but when all hope seems lost, the Japanese somehow come together.
I'm going to make a couple points on that. Now, remember, anyone who see my videos, what have I always said about Asia? What have I always said is the creme de la creme of Asia, Japan. So when I was at West Point studying Chinese, that was the language I want to study. I wanted to study Chinese when I was in high school in New York. They didn't have it. I studied Spanish. And one time I was actually pretty good in the Spanish language. So the first opportunity I could learn Chinese was at West Point. So West Point, they like to send you out overseas and do a sister academy. Well, at that time, they said, you ain't going to China, or you're not going to Taiwan, even Taiwan. It just, because our relations weren't good. So they said, your choice. You could go to the Japanese military academy or the South Korean military academy. Even though I don't speak any of their language, I said, I don't speak their language. They said, don't worry, we'll get an interpreter for you. And I said, I'll go to the Japanese military academy. So it was called, I think it was in Yokohama or Yokokusa. Again, I don't speak Japanese a little bit, Ohio gozaimasu, but they treated me very well. And what have I always said? The creme de la creme of Asia is Japan. Now, I've preferred to study Chinese for many reasons, and it is what it is. But I've always said, whether you're looking for women, culture, doing business deals, hospitals, Japan is the creme de la creme. So, and also what I want to do is I want to squash this very arrogant and ignorant argument that we dumb Americans make. We say this all the time, and it's absolute bullshit. We say this about Germany, and we say this about Japan, and it's horseshit. We always like to say, after World War II, we helped rebuild Japan and Germany. No, we didn't. The DNA of the Germans and the DNA of the Japanese, we're just going to say they're very special. They didn't need our help. It's the same reason you look at other countries. They never seem to get it going on. But Germany and Japan, I mean, we dropped 2 atomic bombs on Japan. We bombed the shit out of Germany. And it's so arrogant for us Americans to say, yeah, we helped rebuild Japan. We helped rebuild it. What are you talking about? They did it themselves. Why? Because the Japanese are I'm trying to be politically correct. We'll just say they have very special DNA, and the Germans have very special DNA. So that part about the Japan's going to rise. And what did I always say about balancing power? Because not only do we as Americans need to pull out of Europe, we can't afford it. We have to pull out of Asia. We cannot afford it. So what should happen? Not only should Germany rebuild their military, Japan should also rebuild their military. A strong German military is a good counterbalance with Russia. A strong Japanese military is a good counterbalance with China, but we can't afford it. So that part about people are like, really, is Japan? If you've ever been to Asia like I have, and I've been around a lot, and I focus a lot on China, and I can tell you why I prefer China over Japan, but the facts are the facts. Japan is nice. And I've always said that if you're going to do anything in Asia and you don't know where to go, Japan. just go to Japan. You want to do business, go to Japan. I mean, there are some other countries that have advantages over Japan, here and there. But overall, Japan, I've said, is the creme de la creme of Asia. And I've always said that. Okay, let's go to another one. And this is about, what are we fighting this war for in Iran, in the Middle East? Because it's always about Islam, I guess, is evil, but it's always about protecting Christianity, right? Because we have to protect Christianity because America is a Christian country. Not really. We don't give a shit about Christianity, and we're not Christians. And that's why
Christian community decide they will not leave their homes. Church bells ring out in Marjayoun in southern Lebanon. A call to gather for residents of.
Now, remember, I never said I was an expert in the Middle East. I focus on China. I lived in Beirut, though. Now, I lived in Beirut. I lived with the Christians and the Jews. There's Christians. Now, the majority of the country are Muslims, Arabs, and I did not go in those areas. There's a segregation. But I lived with the Christians and the Jews, and it's nice. It was a nice area. But I think that many people might be surprised. But even with the Palestinians and the Lebanese, there is there are Jews, a small segment of Jews, but there are significant Christians. Do we really care about them? No. I mean, do we really care about Christians in America? And I should tell you my story about why I not converted, but I stopped going to church and I went more to the synagogues. I don't really have much faith anymore in Christianity. It sounds like communism to me. And yes, we are not a Christian nation anymore in America. Are we? If we are, then we probably would care about this story.
The village. With Lebanese security forces looking on, members of this Christian community decide they will not leave their homes, despite evacuation orders from Israel.
We're forced to stay despite the danger. When we defend our land, we do so peacefully. None of us carries weapons. We carry only peace, goodness, and love.
But tens of thousands have already left their homes, fearing further violence. Humanitarian organizations have decried the evacuation orders, calling the actions an illegal mass displacement.
We are talking about maybe 700,000 people.
700,000.
Yes, already on the run. So it's quite difficult to have accurate figures, but what it means that we have thousands and thousands of families who are in urgent need of help.
Israeli strikes continue.
So remember, what she's talking about are Christians. So, again, I'm not an expert in the Middle East, but if I meet someone from Lebanon, the first question I ask, or you might see them, there's also a racial difference, is, are you a Christian or are you a Muslim? There's a racial part and there's a religion part. But let's just say the Christian Lebanese, there's more money, they're more westernized. It's just different. If they're Arab Muslims, it's different. But again, we're talking about Christians. So if we're an American Christian country, should we technically care about these Christians? I guess so. I mean, that's it. But we're not a Christian country. We don't give a shit about military veterans. We don't really care about Christianity. You know what we care about in America? Money. And that's why we're in this war, basically. It's basically about the money. And Israel, let's not forget them.
Continued Saturday in Beirut's southern suburbs. The Israeli army says it's targeting infrastructure used by Hezbollah, Lebanon's pro-Iranian Islamist movement. Overnight in the east of Lebanon, Israeli forces carried out a rare and deadly airborne operation, dropping troops into the town of Nabi Shait, allegedly to seek the remains of Ron Arad, an Israeli Air Force officer missing since 1986. The troops clashed with Hezbollah fighters. Dozens on the Lebanese side were killed in the attack, and no remains were found.
After the Israeli army warned this town, as well as other towns, we transferred the children to safety. And 2 or 3 hours after the warning, the Israeli army started strikes, heavy strikes.
In recent days, the Israeli army has also entered several towns in the south of Lebanon. In these images from Friday, 2 tanks can be seen crossing the village of Khiam.
Okay, so we're going to go to this one. So I've gotten to the point in my life now, I don't think religion is really matters anymore. We don't care about religion. We don't care about military veteran, and we don't really care about nationality. I don't know what an American is anymore. Again, living overseas and seeing all the anchor babies when someone says, hey, man, I'm an American citizen. So what have I become to believe more and more is at least a good baseline of who our tribe is, race. Again, it's hard to change your race. Citizenship can change. Everyone's an American. Christianity, I don't know what Christianity is anymore. Everyone's a fucking Christian, whatever. But race. So now we're going to look at a piece of shit. His name is called Patrick Bet David. That piece of shit knows about me. Now, he's a military veteran. He came to America as a military veteran as a quick way to become an American citizen. He could have immigrated to Africa or whatever. He came to America to be with white people and to make money. But let's talk to Patrick fucking David about what he thinks about this war and everything.
Place in my heart. I'm Armenian.
Okay, so here we're going to come. Again, I'm not a very high believer in this guy. I think this guy's a fraud, but it is what it is. Let's go through him.
Can't do both. I am America first, period.
He's America first. I don't know what American is. I don't know what it is. And if you know what an American is, let me know. Particularly what an American patriot is. I want to meet these people. I'm still debating, but he says he's America first, whatever that means. Let's keep going.
Okay, so
I'm not even kidding.
Are you Iran second?
I don't even think that way.
Yeah.
So he doesn't think that way, but give it time. Let me bring it up here. He doesn't think that. Let's keep going.
I don't even think that way. Let me tell you what I'm for. Like, I've never answered this question, but I will comfortably say nothing is above America, and it's not even close.
Well, the one thing that I agree with him is, what did I keep saying? Nobody treats women, immigrants, and racial minorities better than America. We have spoiled these people. So that I would agree with. That's why he wanted to go to America. He didn't want to go to Africa. He didn't want to go to the Middle East. He didn't want to go to South America. He wanted to go to America because white men spoil women, immigrants, and racial minorities. So in terms of that logic, I agree with him. Let's keep going, though.
I agree with you.
When I tell you it's not even close, it's not even close. Now,
literally, where's he going to go? And before that, I think he was in Germany. Okay, Western Europe, ding, ding, ding. Same sort of thing. The only other countries that could compete to America on that would be other white countries. I guess he escaped Armenia, whatever the hell that means. It's a shithole. And he wanted to go to Germany, but he's like, no, Germany does have enough money. I want to go to America and become rich. So anyway, let's keep going.
There's 4 places that have a place in my heart.
Okay. What does that mean in your heart? That means loyalty, right? It's like saying your wife has a place in your heart. Your kids have a place in your heart. That you're talking loyalty. So let's see. I don't even remember if I saw this whole clip, but I know from leadership, I know this stuff. But let's see what he says.
I'm Armenian.
Armenian. And guess what Armenian means to him? To all you dumb cucks in America, when they talk about this stuff from whether it be Eastern Europe or the non-Western world, they're not necessarily talking about the passport. They're not necessarily talking about the citizenship. They are talking about the race. Just like when you say, my loyalty is with Chinese, they're not talking about Chinese citizens. They're talking about Chinese people. So he's talking about the Armenian racial people. What did I say about that? Doesn't surprise me. Why? Because the only group of people that do not have a sense of loyalty to race is probably white people. It's the only people I can think of is white people. So he seems to have a sense of loyalty to his own fellow people, Armenian. There's nothing wrong with that. I consider that to be normal. Let's keep going.
Mother's Armenian. So Armenian, Assyrian, my dad,
Assyrian, same thing. We're talking racially now. Now he's talking my loyalty, which is another word to say my heart. My loyalty is with my racially people. Let's keep going.
Very proud son of Gabriel Bet David. I admire him. I love him. I want to make sure. So I have a very close pride in the Assyrian community. I was born and raised in Iran. And the Iranian people are some of the most incredible people in the world. I love them. They're fantastic. But the greatest country in the world that gave me the greatest gifts I have is America.
Okay, let me finish it.
And it ain't even close. When I tell you it ain't even close, it ain't even close.
So one thing, and that is first, he's absolutely right. We have given unbelievable. And what has he done to me, a military veteran that asked for help? He knows about it. I've sent emails to his secretaries that they know about me. He's a piece of shit. He came to America because he's true. We treat immigrants, racial minorities, and women the best at the price of white men. And our founding fathers would have never agreed with this. Once we start and continue to marginalize white men, this country's over. But do you think his loyalty is to white European people? He's in America because it's a good times. But what if all of a sudden America, there's a recession, a depression, the economy goes to shit, and he realizes he could have a better life in Dubai? What would he do? He's gone. He's gone. Meaning the people are in America because it's all about good times. And I'm telling you, when bad times come, you are going to see more and more people jump ship. They don't care. For the same reason about this Iranian war, I am loving to see, I really do hope a military draft comes. I don't think it's possible. You know, a guy like Donald Trump who dodged the draft 5 times, him as commander-in-chief, could he draft? I mean, that could be a spark of a civil war. But I hope a draft comes because you are about to see the amount of bullshit that come to people. I love America. Military draft, sorry, man, can't do it. I'm out of here. That's what you're going to see. Let's do a couple things. Now, we got 2 more videos. All this money in the military, and people say, we got to support the military. We got to support the military. I love my tax money being paid. No, time to defund the military. A lot of money being paid. And I'm telling you, the U.S. dollar, give it time. It's going to go down.
Increasing scrutiny. A new analysis. Even as millions of ordinary Americans struggle with rising costs, the spending habits inside the halls of Pentagon are now under increasing scrutiny. A new analysis by the U.S. government watchdog Open the Books has revealed that in September 2025 alone, the final month of the U.S. fiscal year, Pentagon, under the U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, approved spending worth more than $93 billion. But what exactly did some of that money?
I'm telling you, in the military and the government, it's all monopoly money. It's all, they don't care. They don't care. And I'm telling you, if you are a middle income American, you are going to get fucked. I am telling you, welcome to inflation. And you say, man, I back the military. I support the military. And they are going to pump it and pump it and pump it until you realize why your standard of living is dropping and dropping. But these military guys eating steak and lobster, and you're like, well, we have to support the troops. I mean, we could still make life for the military good, but we need to reduce the quantity. I don't mind them having a quality of life. There's too many of them, though. I mean, some way, shape, or form, we cannot burn the candle at both ends. We have to start talking about fiscal responsibility. So sure, I mean, we could take care of soldiers, but maybe we have to reduce the quantity or something, but it's not. But anyway, keep supporting the military veterans and keep Donald Trump printing the money. Eventually, it's going to come around.
Buy, to put it simply, luxury food and lavish comforts. The report says that Pentagon spent $9 million on crab and lobster dinners in just 1 month. Records show around $7 million went to lobster tail, while another $2 million bought Alaskan king crab. And the indulgence didn't stop here. The department also spent over $15 million on ribeye steak, $124,000 on new ice cream machines, and more than $139,000 on donut orders. Defense spending also extended far beyond food. The Pentagon paid around $225 million for just furniture, including high-end recliners costing more than $60,000. In fact, the Pentagon spent more on furniture in 2025 than in any year since 2014. According to data analyzed by the government watchdog, the Pentagon spent over $93 billion on contracts and grants in September 2025 alone, marking the largest monthly spending by any American government agency on record. More than half of that total, over $50 billion, was spent in just the final 5 working days of the month. Now, the timing of all of this has been important as well. U.S. federal agencies, remember, often rush to spend the remaining funds before the fiscal year ends because unused money can lead Congress to reduce their future budgets, which is an issue plaguing the White House. U.S. President Donald Trump had recently agreed to a roughly 50% funding boost, leaving American officials facing the challenge of deciding where exactly to place an additional $500 billion. Now, Pentagon's luxury spending has sparked reactions from the opposition.
Yeah, well, we got one more video, but if I would say government fraud, waste, and abuse, and I get what's happening in Minneapolis, how we even allowed the Somalis to go there, I don't think this problem is going to get fixed. Meaning, we just want, almost to the point that the best way to solve this is Americans are just going to have to stop paying their taxes. But despite what's happening in Minneapolis, if you ask me the biggest fraud, waste, and abuse department, it's the U.S. Defense Department. I don't think people realize how big it is, how much it's going on, fraud, waste, and abuse. And nothing's going to change until more Americans just say we're not going to pay taxes. But there's going to be no audit, no Doge. It's not going to work. Even Donald Trump, what did he do? Double down, more funding, more funding. It's just never going to change until Americans either stop paying taxes or we break the bank. Not for the top. Crypto and gold are going to stay the top people. We're going to do one last video here. This is about China. Let's see where their tax money. Remember, what's China doing this whole time? One, they're sitting back. Their soft power goes up. They don't have to do anything. I told you, they're not very good at soft power. But for this one, they're doing pretty good. All they need to do is nothing. We're screwing up. And two, you'd be surprised. The Chinese are much more fiscally responsible than the Americans. We just spend money. Why? Because our corporations are ruling us. In China, it's the government. So what are they doing with their tax money? What are they preparing for?
On the off the northeast coast of South America. General Jack Keen's here to talk. Chinese military getting a major upgrade at sea. Beijing has commissioned its most advanced warship ever. It is seen as a rival to our largest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, now on the off the northeast coast of South America. General Jack Keen's here to talk about it. General, nice to see you, sir. Always good to find out what the hardware race is here, and I have faith in our military, and I don't think we're going to miss a step. No.
Oh, sure. Keep having faith. Let's see how this war goes in Iran.
Nonetheless, here's what China is doing right now. About 1,000 feet long compared to the Ford, about 1,100 feet long. Here's the comparison.
Okay, so let me just do a little Fujian. That's the Fujian province. That's the province right, I guess you could say, across the Taiwanese Strait. There's a province called Fujian. Now, I've said many times, I do not believe the Chinese military is at the level of the American military now. Because you got to remember, I mean, people don't realize we are the military superpower. Trust me, the European militaries are a joke. We are so far ahead of the curve in terms of the amount of money we put into our military. But we are degrading. And I don't think we have a choice because we're going to break the bank. China's growing. So what I'm saying, I've said this before, in 10 years from now, ask me again. But right now, even the aircraft for Fujian, I would not be surprised if it is not as advanced technological as the American aircraft carriers. I wouldn't be surprised. But I keep saying, ask me again in 10 years when the newer advanced, because the China knows that the only way to truly protect their people, their government, their way of life from the American empire is you better go strong military. Similar like Americans know that if we don't have the Second Amendment, meaning guns, our own government would run over us. I want that to sink in. We are American citizens. What do we think about our own government? Do we trust them? Do we really need the Second Amendment, guns? I think most people would say, hell yeah. If we don't have guns, this American government would just roll all over us. Well, why wouldn't a foreign government think the same way with America? So China is thinking absolutely. They need to get their guns, meaning their military, improved. Otherwise, America, like we said, it's the laws of the jungle. We're going to do whatever the fuck we want. So China knows that the only way to keep America in check is not through morality. What the hell does that mean? It's not through legality. There's no international law. The only thing is you better have guns. Very similar to how American citizens look at our own government. If we don't have guns, we're screwed. So can you blame China? I can't really blame them. I would do the same thing. I would build their military up fast.
Displacement 80,000 tons versus the larger Ford 100,000. Aviation force 50 to 60 aircraft. We've got 75. The range is 10,000 nautical miles. The Ford is unlimited because the Ford is nuclear powered. It has to dock like every 20 or 25 years, if that. General, how do you see the competition?
Well, certainly we have a qualitative advantage here, and obviously we have 11 of these, and they have 3 of them. What is China really up to here? Certainly, what they want to do is dominate military in the Indo-Pacific region, and they do have a decisive military advantage there, to be quite frank about it. And we have to deploy more of our capability into that region: offensive missiles, defensive missiles, drones, for sure, and other capabilities. But what they really have.
All right, Spartan Sugar, I banned him. I don't know who it was, but it is what it is. I take your word for it.
Mine also is they want to dominate and project power globally, like the United States does. And that's what we're doing with our 11 aircraft carriers and our ships. And there's 2 ways you project combat power outside of your country. One is maritime at sea, and the other is on land. Well, the United States has somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 plus military facilities outside of the United States, 63 of them.
Yeah, and this is another thing too. They make a big deal when China builds a military base or something. I don't think people realize we have China so much out. I mean, right now China has 1, it could be 2 if you look at it, overseas military bases. I think we got like 170 to 180, in terms of our size, our Navy, everything like that. Now, what I am saying, though, China is growing. There's no doubt about it. And I believe we're declining. But I'm saying, meaning without a threat, our Defense Department needs a budget. They need an enemy. So they're trying to build up, like China is building up. But if you still compare them to America, we are literally the Roman Empire. We still outgun them in so many areas.
Are persistent facilities that have troops, airplanes, and maritime ships at it. China has 1 military facility. So in terms of the United States and projecting combat power, we're in 45 countries doing just that. It's really quite significant. Yeah. This is what
And again, this is General Keane. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a big fan of these generals. If you think I'm wrong, go ask enlisted soldiers and Air Force what they think about the general officer. We're not very good. We're not winning wars. We're not taking care of our soldiers. And oh, by the way, Americans think it's really cool that we have these big militaries. Okay, but it's your taxpayer money. But the point is what is it equal to the threat? But I say that again, don't even fool yourself when they try to pump this up about the Chinese aircraft carrier. The amount of money that we are spending on the military, I think our government already knows that there's going to be a transition into something crypto or something gold or something, because the US dollar, I'm telling you, it continues to drop in value. And part of the reason is we want all this fancy equipment, cool aircraft carrier. Where's this money coming from? And if you think these military generals really care about being fiscal conservative, you're crazy. Same thing when I was in the FBI. When you're in the intelligence community, it's unlimited budget. Never once were we concerned about maybe that costs a little too much money. Maybe it's all funny money. We just don't care. All right, but sooner or later, it's going to catch up to the taxpayer.
President Xi wants to do. He wants to be a global power to replace the United States. Having that influence, not just economically, which we've seen all around the world, But having that influence militarily as well is strategically what he's up to here.
Okay, let me hammer home the point that you're making. Look at the map here. U.S. military bases in the Indo-Pacific. Significant, right? I mean, South Korea, Japan.
And I want to make that known right there. I see Kay Griggs' story, 8-hour interview on Must Watch. Okay, not sure who Kay Griggs is, but I want you to see right there is picture China. Obviously, we're looking at a map of China right there. And with all the military bases around, I mean, we have so many. What if that was the opposite in America? Like a Chinese base in Cuba, a Chinese base in Venezuela. What would we do? We would go ape shit in America. But I want you to know that's what China is looking at. They see American military power stationed right off their shore. You don't think that's going to get them like, man, we build the military? What I say again, what if this was the opposite in the Atlantic Ocean or in the Pacific Ocean closer to California or Hawaii, where Chinese were doing that? We would never allow it. But I want you to see that because when you're looking at the strategic map, America is on the offensive. China's on the defensive.
Japan, Guam, Singapore, so we are there. In the meantime, we've watched this war in Ukraine for some time now, General. And this war, in part, is dragging on because warfare has changed. And drones are a significant part of this. The U.S. military now is taking a step forward. I want to listen to President Trump right now on his meeting in October. Watch here.
We have a lot of drones right now.
Now, I also want you to know that Trump's kids invested heavily in drone warfare investment companies. You don't think there was any insider knowledge that Dad, President Trump, is going to go into war and he's going to utilize, I mean, the amount of corruption that's happening in the Trump family with their shit coins, Melania Trump with her shit movie and her shit coins, it's ridiculous. It really is like a corporation. I mean, think about it. Think how corrupt these American corporations are. Remember, I worked for Boeing in Beijing. Why is the American military industrial complex working directly with the Chinese government? It makes no sense. It's a total conflict of interest. Well, guess what, Donald Trump, and I'm not necessarily focusing so much on Donald Trump. The Democrats did it, the Republicans, but Donald Trump and his kids could take the trophy of being one of the most corrupt presidencies in terms of financing, spinning off, utilizing the White House in terms of increasing profits in their private affairs, in their private business affairs. But his kids invested heavily in drone warfare companies. You don't think there's any conflict of interest in that, insider trading or whatnot?
We build our own drones, but we also buy drones from others, and they make a very good drone. I mean, drone warfare has really come to the fore over the last couple of years because of this war.
He's precisely right about that. We are set to buy 1 million drones from the U.S. Army. What do you know about this, and how much further does it go?
That's Trump's kids, by the way, that company they invested in.
No.
Well, the Army's been at transition based on the drone warfare and its dominance on the battlefield for the last 18 months. I've seen 4 of their exercises, one in Germany, one in the United States in Louisiana. I was just out to the desert in California watching it there, and the jungle in Hawaii, and they're going to do another one in the Arctic in February. So the Army is taking a different path here than what they've done in the past. Usually we go to the schoolhouse, conceptualize something that's new, experiment and test with it, and work out the bugs, and then start giving it to our units. So what the Chief of Staff of the Army is doing, he's telling the division commanders, we are going to make this change simultaneously in your region of the world where you are deployed, whether it's in the United States, Europe, the Pacific, or in the Arctic. And we're doing that and exchange that information. And I've never seen anything quite like it. And as I've said, I've seen 4 of these exercises. What has happened here is drones dominate the battlefield, as you indicated, and it's resulted in positional warfare. What you get is...
So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap it up here with the drone warfare, and that is, you're also seeing this in Iran, and that is with Iran using more cheaper versions of drones, and then we in America are using more high-grade weaponry to counteract those drones. But from a fiscal standpoint, we are draining our monetary resources where we have, you could just say we have high-end equipment going against low-end drones. And at the end of the day, it's gonna break our bank. So we'll just sum it up with this. Where is Iran going with this war? Is Trump getting set for a major deployment purely to use as a tokening card to get a better negotiation? It could be. It's costing us a lot of money to do that deployment, but who cares about money anymore? We just print US dollars. But if not, we're going to do a ground invasion. Interesting. And all these commentators that you see in America think Iran's it's justified. Trump has talked about it. Okay, would you go then? Are your kids going to do? Meaning, if you're not willing to fight and die for this war, your kids will fight and die. Maybe it's not as important as you think. Maybe the threat from Iran is not what you would think. Now, from the Israeli perspective, it could be different, but why are we spending our tax monies and dying for Israel? But perhaps from Israel's standpoint, the threat from Iran could be much more serious from us. But I've said many times, our biggest threat in America is by far domestic. By far domestic. The Roman Empire fell from within America. But if you ask me overseas what it is, I've said many times, I go back to 2004 when I was in the FBI, it would be China. China would still be the most lethal overseas threat there, not Iran and not any of these, terrorism or whatever. This war on terror has been going on for 20 plus years. So let's see where this goes. But I am curious to these MAGA cult people. If a ground invasion happens, which I kind of hope it does, just do it. And then if a draft happens, let's see what these MAGA people think about Donald Trump. But I double down. We failed. Just like in Jesse Ventura talked about Vietnam, we lost in Vietnam, believe it or not. We lost. And who's doing a lot of business now in Vietnam? China. China's in there. China has influence in Vietnam. We don't have it anymore. But how did we do in Afghanistan and Iraq? Not very good. That's a victory. I wouldn't want to see what a defeat is. Are we going to be different in Iran? Same thing. And at the end of the day, military leadership 101, what exactly is the objective? And ask yourself, if we had 100 congressmen, MAGA congressmen, 100 of them, would they be in sequence of having the similar objective and goal? I don't think so. I don't even know what it is. I guess we rid Iran's capability to build nuclear weapons forever, I guess. I guess that's it. How exactly do we do this? Well, we destroy the facilities. Okay. We already did a bombing campaign in was it the summer of last year, something? So I guess that wasn't, or was that just the prelude for this war? Either way, that's where this is going. But I think just when they talk about the drone warfare, despite the 82nd Airborne being high speed, you start putting troops on the ground, I think it's going to be a meat grinder. Don't think so? Let's see where this thing goes. Until then, if there's any questions, I'm looking. I don't think we have any questions here. David Baumblatt. And oh, by the way, when all these people talk about MAGA, talk about supporting a military veteran, here I've said many times, I'm a military veteran who honorably served my country. I just have a simple question. Why am I not welcome back in America? Why am I under surveillance in America? Why was I physically assaulted by the government? Why was I humiliated? Why was I deceived? Why was I detained? Why was I searched? This is not normal. It's a simple question. And for all those MAGA people that say we have to support military veterans, what's happening to me could happen to you. And if we support military veterans, then it's time. And the best way you could help me out, press like, send this out, forward this, or ask your politician. But it's an interesting question. If you don't support military veterans, I have no problem with you. Zero problem at you, because I really don't know what military veterans. But if you do support military veterans, I'm just asking you to live up to your principles. And please forward this video and start asking, why is this guy, David Baumblatt, a military veteran, not welcome back in America? Why am I on the FBI terrorist watch list? I've been trying to contact the FBI. They're hiding. And you might say, why would the FBI be hiding? I don't know, maybe a cover-up. Have you ever heard of the Epstein files? We do this. Our government is absolutely corrupt. You'll see it sooner or later. Until then, let's see where this war is going. But remember my prediction. It's going to be a complete failure. It will be a complete failure. like Iraq, like Afghanistan, history's repeating. And guess what else history's repeating? Remember the Roman Empire when it fell? America's going to fall, and it's going to get very dangerous. And then when it starts falling and stress level comes up the economy, you are going to start seeing more of the truth come out. Who's really a patriot or not? And a lot of these rich people, they're going to abandon ship, meaning America, within split seconds. They're out of here if life is no good. Don't believe me? Let's see where this is going. David Baumblatt from Terrabin's Leadership. If you support a military veteran, I appreciate your support. Press like and forward this out. Thank you very much. Lead to victory.